We're looking at two books today, two books from Scotland, or describing Scotland. They're almost a century apart. First book written in 1814, and the second book written in 1898. And in the order of reading, I started with the 1898 book. And if you have a choice, you may want to do that as well for the same reasons I've given in other couplings. It lays the groundwork for what you're about to read in the earlier book. So if you switch them around, reverse chronological order, it may be easier reading, or reading with an easier context. Anyway, so the first book is called Border Raids and Reivers by Robert Borland, 1898. And what Borland does is describe in great detail, and interesting detail, the so-called border reivers. And the border reivers, actually, the border raiders and plunderers went back and forth across the English and the Scottish border, and in a series of raids, and they lasted, this condition in the border area lasted generations. If I'm not mistaken, somewhere in Borland I read something like 300 years. This was the condition of the border in Scotland was always a political consideration, and where you would have great families, reiver families, come down and clear out entire villages of their rivals, and the rivals would do likewise. And if anybody got hurt or killed in any of these actions, then you had reason for revenge raids. So you could see how this could go on for 300 years, and it did. And Borland gives a interesting groundwork of Scotland as it was, during the time of the border reivers, the most heavily, from 1400 right up to 1600, 1400 right up to 1600. It only ended when James of Scotland became the King of England. So he was the king of both Scotland and England, and now there was no reason not to revenge yourself on those across the border. You were both living under the same king, and like it or not, you were now neighbors. So, but Borland does an interesting job in this. He's very detailed. He shows how the Scottish clan system worked. He showed how it didn't work. He gives the condition of Scotland at the time, gives a good basic layout of history before he goes into the border reivers, his main topic. Well worth the read. I only read it in Kindle, but you can get it online in Kindle. But I'm sure this a book like this would be interesting to pick up in your hand and flip over and read at random. Each chapter, it doesn't have to be read in order. Read at random. Each chapter will pay you back. The second book we're looking at is from Sir Walter Scott, 1814. Publication date. It's called Waverley, and this was the first of the so-called Waverley novels, not all named Waverley, but of a type. And Waverley is a story of a young Englishman, aristocrat, who is part of the English. He's an officer in the English army. He decides to go to Scotland, where he gets entangled in the 1745 Rising, and which had Scotland rise up against English rule, against English dominion. The Scots invaded England, went down so far with Bonnie Prince Charlie at their head, and were ultimately, well, actually, they sort of gave up and withdrew back into Scotland, but were pursued by Cumberland, and with great slaughter. The dreams of Scottish independence with Bonnie Prince Charlie as a figurehead ended in Culloden, the scene of the last battle. So anyway, Walter Scott does a very good job in entangling his protagonist Waverley through this, in this, and this is why it's interesting to have a little bit of background of Scottish clan system, Scottish history. Even though Scott is very good at giving you this, his book is fully footnoted. He backs up. He describes and backs up in footnotes assertions he's made in his fiction, and this is in fact considered the first historical fiction. And if that is the case, it's a good one. And it's a good one to start out from, and it's a good one that sets the bar. And Scott is a very good writer. He went on to become really a superstar, if I can use that anachronism, a superstar for writers, one of the first, or if not the first, followed years later by Dickens, with an international following. And when you read Walter Scott, you understand why. So Waverley will have everything for everyone, including a romance and including scenes of battle and scenes of intrigue, scenes of chills and spills, near misses, everything you would want in Highland reading.